All right, this is take two of recording this podcast. Um, Welcome to a live recording of the Elevating IT podcast. Thought I'd go live. I didn't schedule this, so probably most people are just going to watch it on the replay. But actually, let me make sure have the right audio set up here. I have the wrong audio set up. So bear with me. Setting up audio. Da, da, da. Let's get things
going. There we go. All right. Testing. Now we should be set with the right microphone. So, welcome to the Elevating IT podcast. Start over here. I'm doing a live recording. I thought I'd go live because it's Saturday. A little relaxing day, but I wanted to get this recording done for the Elevating IT podcast. And I get asked a bit how to do podcasting. So I thought I would answer some of those questions that I get live on a podcast, live on the recording anyway. So before I start, I just want to check my settings again because I didn't schedule this. So usually when I schedule it, I'm a little more together with this stuff. Pro stereo, there we go. So how are you today, world? As we're rolling into the weekend, hope everybody's having a great weekend, or whenever you're listening to this, hope you're having a great day. First question, here's my question of the day for you. Coffee or tea? What do you got in your cup today? I know it's 3:00 and it's 3:30 in the afternoon as I'm recording this. So could be a beer in your cup at this point. But I thought I would do this, again, behind the scenes kind of impromptu recording of this podcast live. And you can see by watching something live, it can be a little bit of a train wreck. It's live, right? Like it's unscripted. Or as unscripted as I think I get. I'm scripted, sort of, but it's more improv. So it's like the Larry David Curb Your Enthusiasm, right? They have an outline, they know what they're doing, but the show is all improv. Or, well, it's Curb Your Enthusiasm, but not as funny. But I thought I would do this because, a lot of folks ask how I do certain things with podcasting, with video, with content. And that's not really what the Elevating IT podcast is about. So I thought this would be a great opportunity to come on and just do something live and have some fun. So make sure to comment whether you're watching this on the recording or not. Live, make sure to put a comment and let me know what you're doing today. If you're drinking coffee or tea or something else, I'm having a spot of tea. And again, this is a behind the scenes podcasting recording. Now, there's many ways to record a podcast. I like to record it this way, going live. I do it all the time. And then I take that live recording later and I edit it for the podcast. I pull the audio out and I edit it, upload it as a podcast, and I'm done. There are many, many ways you can do this. You can see I've got a pretty nice microphone in front of me. This is a really expensive microphone. I've got really expensive podcasting equipment, but you don't need to do it that way. I do it that way because I've been doing it for a long time and I've collected a lot of stuff. This actually is many, many years old. I did my first podcast back in, I want to say 2007-ish, either the year before, the year after. It was somewhere in there. That was the very first time I very clunky recorded a audio podcast on my PC and uploaded it to Apple somehow. I don't even remember. Maybe it was later, but I think it was around that, because I know I listened to my first podcast in about 2006, I think. Losing track of time, but it was many, many years ago. So I started getting into it at that point, and I really fell in love with it. There's something about it. I just enjoy it. I've always enjoyed doing videos. Going live for me is no big deal. I just enjoy this kind of thing. So it became a no-brainer for me. And as I got into podcasting, one of the podcasters I listened to early on used to do a podcast on Lost, the show. He created this podcast and became a big kind of almost celebrity-ish in the podcasting world anyway at that time, by podcasting Lost, talking about Lost on a podcast. And I fell in love with that kind of format. And then I followed him, and he became kind of a teacher of podcasting, and I started learning podcasting from him. And one of the things he did is got me to buy all this really expensive equipment. So I have like a mixing board that probably cost me $1,500 at the time, many, many years ago. I have this microphone that I bought, which I still use. It's a great microphone, great sound quality. And I have a mixing board over here, which you can't see, that is actually new. It's called the Rodecaster Pro. If you're serious about podcasting, you want to get into that technical stuff, right? You want to get deep into that technical weeds of this, you can certainly go buy this. The Rodecaster is like a work of art. It's not expensive. I think it's about $500, maybe more, maybe less, somewhere around there. And it is plug and play. You set this thing up, and within 15, 20 minutes, depending on your technical sophistication level, it does everything, right? There's no learning curve to it. It's one of the easiest things that I've ever seen. You can actually record right onto a little bitty device that now missing the oh God, I can't remember the storage device that you push into the little bitty thing. It goes right into like a mini chip. All right. One of those Saturday. I should get a pass for not being able to think straight on a Saturday. But you can record right to it. It plugs into your computer and works with very minimal effort. I can plug my phone into it, or I can Bluetooth in my phone. Now, I got to tell you, when recording podcasts, and if you have guests, I used to love having guests on the podcast, and I still do. And I used to have to do it by Skype when I first started doing this. And it's like, you have to have something called a mix minus when you go through a board where the other person doesn't hear themselves talking and you don't hear any of that feedback. You have to really know what you're doing with wiring. And it's crazy. This thing does all that stuff out of the box for you. It's a really great piece of equipment, sound effects in here and all sorts of stuff. But here's the deal. You don't have to do that. And what I want to make sure people understand with podcasting is it doesn't have to be scary. There are many, many ways to do it. My favorite way is the easiest way. So whatever the easiest way to do it is, that's the way I recommend doing it. And quite frankly, I would show you my phone. That's your best podcasting device, right? Like all you need with podcasting equipment is your smartphone or your computer. I have my phone over to my left, and it's actually recording me. I'm recording as I'm talking to you guys live. And the reason I'm doing that is because I like to edit video and podcasts. I like the editing part of it. It's something I've enjoyed. And if I have the time, I'm going to use that footage and sync it up and make B-roll out of it if I use it in videos. And I'll talk more about how you use this stuff and why I go live, and it will become a little clearer in a moment. But my favorite way to create a podcast or a video show or whatever kind of content you're creating is the easiest way to do it. And that's the way I recommend. Don't get hung up on anything other than the content. You don't need a microphone like this. You don't need a soundboard like I have. You don't need anything except your iPhone or Zoom. Zoom is great for recording content. I use something called StreamYard, which helps me. I go live with StreamYard. Zoom is different because you can obviously record. Actually, you can record on StreamYard as well now, and then download that video. You never even have to go live, but it's really, StreamYard's really a live platform. But don't get hung up on anything other than content. Okay. Nobody listens to a podcast for the production value. Nobody watches video content for the production value. People listen and watch for the content. If the content speaks to them, if they're interested in it, they're going to consume it. And by the way, these banners that you're seeing here are my outline. I do this all the time. So StreamYard's a really cool tool because it's out of the box. You can go live. So if doing what I'm doing here, and it'll make more sense why I'm doing it this way. That's the behind the scenes portion of this. I missed one thing in my banner here. Let's see. There it is. I gotta put one more banner in here. This is why I love actually live, because I'm gonna make this, hide this banner for a moment. Oh, no, I had it right. Sorry. Where was I? I was here. These banners are my outline. So in StreamYard, I can put these banners in and it becomes an outline. So if you look at the banners, if you looked at my screen, you would see the banners popping. I wonder if I can share this. You know what? I can share this. I'm going to share. No, I can't share my, I don't think I can share my, well, let's see what happens. Sharing the screen. Let's see if I can. So you should literally be looking at me sharing my screen. And you see this inception thing, but you see this stuff here. Look at this. This is my outline, right? I've been following this. So this is one of the things I love about StreamYard is that I can just follow along with my outline. And I do this a lot when I record, and I'm going to stop sharing the screen now because it's a little wonky. But I do this all the time. When I'm going live with a guest, I go in and I create these banners for myself, but I don't show them the way I'm showing you guys. I'm putting them on the screen to kind of make a point for how I'm doing things, because I wanted to give you that behind the scenes look. I use it for myself. So when I scroll through, I can actually see it on the screen while I'm recording this. So Matt Solomon, what's up? I've unlocked the metaverse. I got to show a little love for my good buddy Matt Solomon, who's commenting and listening. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate you being here. I've unlocked the metaverse. Talk to us about backlighting. What do you have going on with the blue light behind you? So that's actually I don't know the brand name, but it's like these cheap little lights I found on Amazon. And let's see, this is my little remote control here for the lights. So I can change the color, by the way, a little mood lighting, a little audit lighting, right? Like we want to do red, yellow, green. I think I had it on blue, but it's really little puck lights that are up there and shining at the ceiling. So it's a kind of a cool effect. I put it up, I put it somewhere else, and I kind of was like, man, I bet that would be great backlighting for a podcast. So that's where that came from. So thanks for asking the question, Matt. Appreciate you being here. Let me get back to my banners. So the banners are the outline as I'm doing this. And I was listening to another podcaster who does a lot of stuff on live, and she was saying that she does the same thing. She was saying, you know, I use my banners for an outline. And I thought, oh, wow. But she actually puts them on the screen. So you see it and you're following her. And I thought, oh, I should do that too. But the cool thing is that when I go to edit this later, these things will serve as little content clips. So I'll know when I'm talking about something because I can see the banners on the screen. And I really think so. I think live is the easiest way to create instant content. I love doing lives. I think it's informal. I'm okay with it being like this. Most of the people that do lives that I've watched and studied don't try and be overly produced. They're just going live and they're treating it like a live conversation and having fun with it. Again, I use this thing called StreamYard. You don't have to, but it's out of the box, easy way to go live. And I love easy. It's like a monthly subscription. And the cool thing is when I go to get the video. So what this is doing is it's going live on LinkedIn, my personal LinkedIn. It can go live on a LinkedIn page, but you have to have special, you have to apply to be able to go live on LinkedIn. So I applied, I got the ability to do it on my personal profile. I go live on our audit Facebook page, and I go live on our audit YouTube channel all at once. So it's live in those three places right now, and maybe wherever you're watching it. I know Matt is probably on LinkedIn because I can't see him in my count. And I know nobody's here right now because there's nobody watching on Facebook or on YouTube. Okay. But I can't see who's watching on LinkedIn. So there could be, and most of the people who watch it actually do watch it on LinkedIn. So StreamYard, when I end the broadcast, that video, first of all, is going to live on YouTube and LinkedIn and Facebook. So it's content that's being put out there that's there and always going to be there for people to go look at later. And a lot of people who do listen to the lives, watch the lives, they watch them later. Usually if I'm going to go live, I schedule it, which is cool that you can do with StreamYard. You go and you schedule this for later, maybe a week out, and then I'll email our list. I'll put out on social media. It'll put that out there so that people can actually get ready and be on there. I put together a whole landing page where I send out with the links to those specific recordings put in there. So I have a whole promotion process. Now to do this pop-up live, I just hit live and I'm live, right? I didn't do any planning. So that's why most people who are going to watch it on the replay. But what I love about StreamYard is now, once this is done, I can download the video and the audio. And you can do the same thing in Zoom. I am pretty sure you can download the audio separately. So it makes it so easy to put up a podcast, right? If you're doing an audio podcast, you've got the audio file. If you get just the video file, you have to do a little bit of work to extract the audio, and maybe you want to edit it out, right? And Robin's watching. Robin Cole, what's up, my good friend? It's great to see you. Love chatting with Robin. So StreamYard, great tool. And then the key to live is to just talk, go live, talk. And you know, when you interact with people, I mean, that's the cool thing about live. This is an interaction thing. It's not about me doing a highly produced show. And I like doing those things. I like doing editing video and I like creating produced content, but that's not what a live is. So that's a little bit of a little bit of behind the scenes before I record the podcast. And I'm going to come back. I'm actually going to record the podcast episode now. So this isn't the podcast episode. The podcast, and I'm going to record it in a moment, but the podcast for Elevating IT, and just to give you a little backstory here. So depending on who's listening, I think most of the people who listen to this are in the IT industry, because the Elevating IT podcast is a IT industry podcast. And I'm going to talk about sales. That's what we always talk about on the podcast, because that's what we do at Audit. So Audit sponsors that podcast, and the podcast is by Audit. But it's really, I shouldn't say that it's only about sales. It's really about elevating the IT industry. And through that, a lot of that is about sales, because we believe that if you sell the right solution at the right price, you're going to be elevating the quality of IT available to the SMB. So that's where that kind of comes from. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and record the actual audio podcast. Now, it's not a long one, so hang with me. And then I'm going to come back out of it and talk to you more about what I just did and wrap it up. Take a little drink before I do. And this is tea. This is not booze yet. I promise I don't start into that before 5 o'clock. Actually, I'm going to take this banner off right now. Wait a minute. Because I want to give myself a marker. I know I'm at about 19 minutes. Welcome to the Elevating IT podcast. I'm your host, Mike Brooks. Thank you for listening very much. And again, this podcast is sponsored by Audit. Today, I want to share the place where deals are won or lost. And that is very simply at the beginning, the initial meeting where IT providers are doing their fact finding. That's very, very important part of the sales process. It sets the stage for everything that's going to come next. Now, with that said, I don't want to oversimplify things. The deal can be won or lost anywhere throughout the journey. You can do everything right, and then at the last moment, the person asks a question that kills the deal. But what I've seen countless times by countless salespeople, including myself, if you do get things right in the beginning, you will almost always, all right, let's cut that. So I made a mistake in my going back for the behind the scenes. I'm going to have to edit this video. I'm going to have to edit the audio to redo that third paragraph here. But what I've seen countless times by countless salespeople, including myself, if you don't get things right in the beginning, the very beginning, when you're out there for the initial meeting, that first contact that you're making with the prospect, you're almost always going to lose the deal, unless you're just the cheapest option, which I know that most people do not want to be. And I can tell you a little quick story to illustrate this, where I'm going to pick on a person in a selling position who I know is okay with being picked on. Me. I landed a sales appointment many, many years ago. This is when I ran a marketing agency, and it was with a company that wanted to potentially hire us. They'd heard about us. They got a reference from somebody who was using us. So it looked great. And I got on and started following my little script. Now, I'm not sure if at that point I was just maybe a little too cocky, because I had been, by that time, having a bit of success, a successful sales streak. But I didn't go and do my homework, and I didn't kick off the meeting in the right way. I didn't realize the person that I was speaking with at this company had actually been in a very high ranking position at several big companies. I didn't bring it up. I didn't ask about her experience. And then I said something really boneheaded to try and educate her on how search works and how we do it great, which is what we do, right? I was talking about a lot of the technical stuff with her. And she stopped me and asked me if I realized that one of her roles in the past, which is readily available on LinkedIn, was at a search engine company called Yahoo. And I turned beet red, and I was like, no. So what was I going to say? And I lost it. I lost that deal. She never got over that. And she told me, she said, listen, there's something that just doesn't feel right. She was very blunt about it. She said, there's something that just doesn't feel right with working with your company. And it really came down to the fact that I didn't take the time to ask good questions from a point of knowledge, from a point of understanding. I didn't even do my homework to understand what questions I should ask her. And here's why this happens. Trust is built or not built in the beginning of the relationship, at the very first meeting, in the very first moment. And this is really the most important thing when it comes to selling. We've all heard that we buy from people we know, like, and trust. You've probably heard that. You can take all that out except one thing: trust. No one ever buys from someone that they don't trust. I've bought many things from people that I didn't know, but I trusted. I've bought from people that I didn't like. Sometimes I bought something recently from somebody I don't like, really specifically didn't like at all, but I trusted them. I knew they were going to do a good job. I knew they were going to do high quality work, but I've never, ever bought from someone that I didn't trust. And with IT sales, when you go to present your findings in the end, if they don't trust you, they're not going to believe what you're telling them. And it doesn't matter how great your presentation is. If they don't trust you, they won't believe you. So how do you earn trust in the beginning? Well, it's really as simple as asking questions and listening. And of course, doing a little bit of preliminary homework, right? You want to collect some information that's readily available out there to find out who this company is, what they do, who the people are that you're talking to. I always do that now. I never, ever not do that. Even if I know the person, I learned my lesson many, many years ago. Where I see IT providers having issues is when they go out to an appointment and only engage in the technical stuff. After all, you're there to uncover the technical issues, right? Wrong. You don't want to go walking in with, where can I plug in my thumb drive to collect all sorts of technical stuff? That's not going to build your relationship, and it's not going to build trust. The company brought you there ultimately because they are experiencing pain that their current provider or lack of a current provider is unable to solve. And there's a direct business impact from that pain. It could be that they keep fighting issues with massive downtime that's slowing production down. And because of that, they lose or lost thousands of dollars of revenue. Maybe just last week they lost thousands of dollars of revenue. Maybe they lost a client. They're now fighting to keep clients happy, but the problem keeps getting worse and worse. And every time they go to their current IT provider, the current provider says there's not a problem. It's your fault, or it's not us, or excuses. They don't know what's causing it. They don't know why it's happening. The technical stuff is yours to figure out, but they sure know it's causing massive issues in their business. Another edit point in the audio. Can't put a cough into a podcast episode. So your job as the technical person, the MSP there to sell them, your job is not just to find the cause of the problem. It's to understand their problem and the impact it's having on their business. The relationship between the technology and what it means to the business is a huge bridge that you have to cross, and you have to pull them across that bridge from problem to tech, right? The problem comes first. And think about like going to a doctor's office, right? You go into a doctor's office, you say, "Doc, I have this pain somewhere. It's really bothering me." And the doctor just looks at you and goes, "Oh, well, that's this." And I'm going to write you a prescription. Boom, boom, boom. Would you go fill that prescription, or would you be like, "Wait a minute, you didn't even listen to my heart. You didn't listen, you didn't ask me any questions about it. You didn't examine me." You want the doctor should be asking you a bunch of questions first, right? Maybe they're running tests. They're doing their job, but they're talking to you. They're trying to find out what's going on. So they probably think their current provider doesn't care about their business, right? That's where the business is at this point, because all they keep doing is telling them that there's really no problem. Instead, you asked great questions and you show how you understand their problem. Now you ask some more detailed questions like, "Hey, I noticed that your server is running Windows 3.1. Are you aware this is from 1995 and totally unsecure and probably greatly contributing to this issue?" Right now they know you were listening, right? You've understood their big problems and pains, and you've showed them that you went looking for the cause of that when their current provider was not fixing it, right? That is a huge trust builder. Now they trust you. You heard them. People want to be heard, and we don't trust people who don't hear us, because we know if they don't hear us, they don't understand us. And how can they know the solution to our problem if they're not listening to us? You're looking for the tech reasons behind the pain, of course, but you have to understand the pain, and you have to understand, even more importantly, how does it impact the business? Unfortunately, many MSPs are always starting with the tech. I've done it. I did it. I lost a client because of it. I lost a potentially really cool client because of it. And I'm sure that if you take a look back, if you've been losing clients, you're having trouble closing sales, you can probably really relate it back to where you start. You have to start with listening and asking great questions, then probing further to really uncover the pain and the business impact of it. If you don't do this, doesn't matter how great everything else is in your sales presentation, you're going to lose. So make sure you get out there and do great fact finding. And again, this show is sponsored by Audit, the only sales tool for MSPs. And if you want help with your fact finding and presenting, make sure to head over to auditforit.com and go book a demo for yourself. And until next time, keep on elevating IT. And that's the show. We are still live, but the show is over. That was the recording of the show. Now, usually when I record Elevating IT podcast, I jump on, I'm interviewing somebody. When I'm doing it live, it's because I'm doing an interview. I rarely ever do an Elevating IT podcast like that, when it's just me by myself. I would just turn on the camera. I would read, and I like to read, and I feel I do a pretty good job. And correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but could you tell I was reading? I think I do a pretty good job of reading off of a prompter while not sounding like I'm reading off a prompter. If that's not you, don't do that. Again, it's the quality that's the most important part of the content. Sorry, the quality of the content that's the most important part in a podcast, in a live, in anything you do. If the content's not good, the production value doesn't matter. So and quite frankly, I'd rather you read the content. I would rather listen to somebody reading their content And I've listened to people, I listen to books on tape all the time. They're reading their content. Who cares, right? I would rather have somebody reading the content and it's good content than somebody who sounds like Laurence Olivier delivering a Shakespearean performance, but the content stinks. So from there, what do we do? From there, what do we do? I'm going to repurpose this all over the place. And there's a bunch of opportunities now because this is a 30-minute recording so far. As we go, I've been live for 30 minutes. There's not 30 minutes worth of content on here. There's me having a coughing fit that I'm going to have to edit out of the podcast. There's me having a connection problem with my audio in the beginning. But I'm going to repurpose this in a few different ways. And there's 3 key ways I'm going to do this, right? Number 1 is the podcast. So the first thing I'm going to do is the whole goal of this was to record that podcast. I'm going to put this up on Apple, on our Apple podcast channel, which I hope you subscribe to. That'll be done hopefully next week. I actually have one more episode in front of this from last couple weeks ago. Actually, it hasn't been edited yet. But that's number 1. It's for the podcast, right? So this piece of content is going to be for a podcast, but it was also live content, right? Like people can watch this live. So that was one big way that this could be consumed. The other way is obviously the goal was to record it for the podcast, but there's also the evergreen replay. So this is now up there on YouTube. As soon as I hit end broadcast, it's up there live it's up there recorded on YouTube. It's up there on my LinkedIn, and it's on our Facebook page. 3 different networks where this exists, evergreen forever, right? It's content that's up there. The other thing is clips. I may or may not have said something smart that I can repurpose into segments or clips of all sorts of different times, right? The podcast is probably going to be about a 5-minute, I think, podcast. Maybe 10 minutes at the most. I can take that podcast and I can also pull out audio clips that maybe sound like they could be in a 15 to 30 second bit. Like I'm going to listen to it and I'm going to try and pull out some stuff like that. If I can, I'll turn it into some content that I can put out on social media to then tease the podcast and be content on social media. I can pull out video clips that maybe a point that I made about one of these little banners down here, right? If you're watching the video, if you're listening to the podcast or you're listening to this, actually, I'm not going to put this part on audio only. This will be video. So if you're obviously watching this, you can see it says number 3 clips on the screen. I can go through here and see if I said something that may be worthy of cutting into a segment. Right now, again, that requires a little bit more sophistication, but there's 3 solid ways I can take content. And that last way, the clips way, I can do all sorts of stuff on any network I want to. I can do put stuff on TikTok, Instagram, whatever, as long as I can clip it down and make it relevant to that network, right? Like on TikTok has a certain way that content is put out there. So if I have TikTok worthy content on there, I may pull that out and I can edit in some stuff to make it look TikTok-y. Or I may not do that, right? That takes a lot of energy, time, and effort, right? At the very least, we just want to go and get that content out there. Speed is most important as far as I'm concerned, but I can create probably 20 more pieces of content if I really worked hard and edited this down. As far as editing tools, I get asked that sometimes, find the way that you are going to make this most easy. If it's easiest for you to just download the audio, upload it to Apple, go do it. If you're okay with editing stuff, I use Adobe Audition, big learning curve with Adobe Audition, but there's other tools out there that are easier. I use ScreenFlow on the Mac. That's my favorite tool for video editing. There's other easier tools, and you don't know how to use these completely. Google is an amazing little tool, right? If you all you need to understand with video, really the first thing you need to understand is how to split a clip and how to delete things, right? So you need to understand how to magnify so you can get in there and split clips, and how to split the clip. Like if you don't understand how to split a clip, go Google and say, how do I split a clip in ScreenFlow? And I guarantee you, if you say how to do anything in ScreenFlow, how to do anything in Adobe Audition, you will come up with a video that will show you exactly how to do this. I have a whole cheat cheat thing of directions and videos that I like, that I go and watch every time I want to do a thing. In Audition, I've created little templates for myself. So I've got my bumpers, I've got my intro, my outro all ready to go. I just put the audio in. I edit the audio where I need. I know I've got to edit this audio because I made a couple of flubs. So I'm going to have to go back and edit that. I may edit it in the video format because it's easier for me to see, and then extract the audio. So if you're working with like ScreenFlow and a video like this, I may take the video instead of taking the audio from the broadcast. I may take the video, edit the video, and then extract the audio from it, and I can export the audio out of ScreenFlow. So a lot of different ways to do it, tools that you can use, but the ultimate things, you can add those things to make it more professional like that. You can do your editing. You can add B-roll. Like I've got my camera over here with B-roll. I don't know if I'll use B-roll on it. I might, but I might not. And the podcast, by the way, I can pull this out as a video the same way as I can do the audio podcast. So I'm going to edit that audio, and I'll tell you exactly how I'm going to do it. I'm going to download the video, put it into ScreenFlow. I'm going to edit the video, and I may put in some B-roll just because it changes up the pace and I think it looks cool. But I don't need to do that. So if I don't have time, I won't do that. But at the very least, I'm going to edit the video down, and then I'm going to export it as a video, and I'm going to put that video on YouTube and social media. Then I'm going to export the audio, and that's the audio podcast. So it's two pieces of content from one. So that's what I love about doing this stuff. Lots of different ways you can create content, create stuff, and ultimately just do it. At the very least, if you know you want to do this, just open up your voice recorder app on your phone and start recording, right? Open up your video on your, create a Zoom for yourself. You don't have to have a guest. You could just get on Zoom yourself and record on Zoom and download the audio or video and upload it. At the very first step, I think, of making a professional recording is putting a bumper music in the beginning and an outro at the end. You can have them professionally made, or you can go to, there's different places where you can, and you have to really license it. So you have to understand what music you can't use. YouTube has a bunch of music that is free to use, but you got to make sure it's free to use, and you know the rules of that. So ultimately, just do it. I hope you enjoyed this. This was fun to get on and do a long live video here. I'm going to end this broadcast now, but make it a great day. Have a great weekend. It's time to get rid of the tea, move on to something a little more adult. Take care.